If you haven't checked out CookUnity already, dude, they're the most convenient way to get a wide variety of affordable restaurant-quality food from award-winning chefs delivered to your door. I love CookUnity. I recently got their Korean flank steak, rice bowl, and asparagus. It's incredible. Melts in my mouth. Also, I love asparagus. It's just so good. But CookUnity, it's easy and effortless. There's no cleanup or meal planning. Meals are delivered fully cooked. You just heat in as little as 5 minutes. So make the best meal plan ever with the convenience, chef-level quality, and endless variety of CookUnity. Go to cookunity.com/BCC or enter code BCC before checkout for 50% off your first week. That's 50% off your first week by using code BCC or going to cookunity.com/BCC.
Welcome to the chain. Welcome to the BCC Club. We're your hosts. I'm Kendahl and Sarah, and I'm here with
Sarah Shower, the one, the only. Actually,
sorry, I didn't say it this time. I'm supposed to say the one, the only, and then you had to say it, which is upsetting.
No, you're good. I just, oh my gosh, this is so crazy. This is not related to me, but it relates to similar names. There is someone who is a really big fan, I guess, follower of mine that responds to a lot of my stuff. They have the exact same name as the only girl I've ever really hated. And they respond to my stuff so encouraging, but when I see their full name pop up, I'm like,
Are you sure it's not them?
It's not them.
You looked.
Yeah. But
Wow.
I was like, I haven't thought, it's someone I knew in high school. I guess I've hated people for different reasons, but this girl is the only girl who's ever, I guess, would believe me. And I was like, you have her name.
Yeah.
But you're so nice to me.
Whoa.
I actually feel
healing in a way.
Yeah, it's the universe. But yes, I'm Sarah Shower. This is the BCC Club, where every week we go down an internet rabbit hole. Kendahl, what holes are we diving into this week?
This week's hole is the hole of people who do podcasts about rewatching a show they were on.
Yes.
Well, rewatch podcasts in general, but we're specifically going to be talking about all the podcasts that are coming out about old Nickelodeon shows, old Disney shows.
Yeah.
Obviously, the most famous one is Office Ladies, which feels like the OG kind of rewatch podcast.
Oh, yeah.
And now everyone is making a rewatch podcast, and it's such an interesting
It is.
platform.
It's, we're going to approach it gently, but harshly.
Speak for yourself, Sarah.
Kendahl will stomp into this.
I will stomp. Did you ever listen to a rewatch podcast?
No, I don't, like to live in the past, but I do. Okay, here's the thing. If it was, and we don't watch it now, but how the Harry Potter cast did a 10 years later thing.
Yeah.
I like that, right? It's a one-off. Yeah. It's revisiting the magic.
Yeah.
But I don't mind if a civilian goes through the episode one by one.
Yeah.
But to have the cast reminisce on every single episode.
That's wild.
It's like.
It also, it's The Office to me is one show. There's 6 shows in the world that I'm yeah, I would be interested. I could see you going through each episode, especially back in the 90s where things, where things were so changing and on this episode, this was happening in the world, so we changed it to this. And in this episode, or I think The Office Ladies is fun because they had so many guest stars, and The Office was so big, and the way it was filmed was very different. I feel like The Office is cool because it's filmed so differently from other shows.
Yeah.
Especially of that time. Now we're kind of getting more into it. But even in I know the first season, they didn't really do hair and makeup on them and stuff like that. That's kind of fun. But when it's just a generic Disney show that I'm yeah, I watched it and I liked it because I was a kid, but also it's made the same as, maybe especially for me because I'm in the entertainment industry in a way. I'm I'm not wowed by these facts about how you filmed the show because I'm yeah, that's how you film any show. But The Office Ladies feels like one I'm yeah, I would watch it. That is interesting. I don't listen to it, but I could see people listening to it.
Yeah, I think there needs to also be a decent amount of removal from it. If you were to have a like a Disney nostalgia sort of podcast where, you know, you're working your way through the years. I think that actually would be incredible. You know?
Fun. And you could do all the Disney original movies.
Yeah, and if there are like the OG animators still alive, to have them on, that would be a cool way to do that. I think it's kind of like with fashion where like things obviously do cycle back in, but I feel like with a lot of the Rewatch podcasts, not enough time has passed.
Yeah.
Where it's like you're trying to capitalize on the nostalgia, but the nostalgia hasn't fully formed.
But yes, and it also feels like a lot of them are coming from like a very vengeful place.
Yeah.
Which always feels, because I know there's the Wizards of Waverly Place one, where I think I know they got into like hot water because they were like, Selena Gomez didn't want to do this podcast.
Yeah.
Which felt bizarre to me. And then I know there's the Ned's Declassified one where originally when it started, they were like, we keep pitching a Ned's Declassified like reboot to Nickelodeon. They don't want it, but they also don't want us to be able to do it. They want to like keep it, which to me makes sense because I'm like, well, Ned's Declassified is property of Nickelodeon. You didn't write Ned's Declassified. You were the star of Ned's Declassified, but you didn't write or own the rights to Ned's Declassified. So they're like mad that they won't let them do anything with it, which makes sense to me that they wouldn't let them do that. And so that's kind of how their podcast started. And then I know that Christy Carlson Romano and I always call her Chelsea Vanderpump, which is so insane. Her name is Annalise Vanderpool.
Oh, yeah.
But her name on That's a Raven was Chelsea, and Lisa Vanderpump is a person. And I always call her Chelsea Vanderpump, which is so embarrassing. But Annalise Vanderpool, their podcast is like frustration with the fact that like after they went through Disney, they like didn't have much career success, ? And how that Disney just like set them up for failure. Obviously, I'm not like quoting them or anything, but that's kind of the vibe. So all of them kind of start from a little bit of an angry place.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. We are going to get into how our weeks were, but like I think it's interesting how Disney stars get out of their, or like child stars get out of their child stardom. The most traditional route, which is unfortunate, you see is like children starting to publicly like drink or do drugs.
Yeah.
And then there's the interesting route that I noticed that Daniel Radcliffe took where he went to theater.
Yeah.
And that's like, if you want to be I mean, he was like, I am like known for one thing, but if like pivoting to theater is serious acting, like even, I mean, like movies are also serious acting, but if you're a theater actor, that's like, I feel like that has more. And so he almost shed his...
I love him so much. He's one of my favorite actors, and I've been saying this for years. I feel like now he just won a Tony. Did he win a Tony or win a... Yeah, he just won a Tony.
He won a Tony.
He just won a Tony, and now everyone's like, Daniel Radcliffe! But I feel like years ago, I was like, he's one of my favorite people because he did one of my favorite movies, The Lost City.
Okay.
Where he played this, like, which is with, like, Sandra Bullock and Channing Tatum, and it's, like, a comedy. It's not... And it's very similar to, like, The Spy Who Dumped Me type movie. It's like not a movie you'd be like, that is critically acclaimed or anything like that.
Yeah.
But he did theater for a long time, and then he did like that movie and a bunch of other, and all the movies he chooses, you can tell he was just like, oh, that looks fun. Yeah. That seems fun. And it feels like his whole career was not like, I don't want people to think I'm Harry Potter anymore. I want to be an adult. It just felt like he like genuinely like liked acting, and like after Harry Potter was like, well, I want to keep acting, so I'll see how it goes over here and try this and whatever. But it wasn't like out of resentment of like, no one will let me shed this Harry Potter thing I did. I think he was like, although I have heard it's very different in London. I've heard the actors are treated a lot better. And so I'm sure like, it seems like Emma Watson, Rupert Grint, and Daniel Radcliffe turned out pretty great. So I'm sure it was better, a better situation over there than maybe on Disney Channel. But I do agree. I think that's like the way to do it.
Yeah, like it's interesting how you would think. I mean, that's cool. How like drugs and alcohol are not the only way to shed a certain squeaky clean image. It's to go to. I mean, it's really cool.
But I also think sometimes, unfortunately, you're just not talented because I think there are some people where it's like you were a child star, and we know how I feel about child stars, which is your parents shouldn't have let you do that. Sorry, and I think it's like that's unfortunate. But at the same time, as you get older and you never went through, like, you kind of lose the cuteness of being a child and you're not very good at acting anymore. Maybe you're not, you just don't have the it to be an adult actor, those are the people who have a hard time making it out of that.
Yeah.
Because I look at like Sabrina Carpenter right now.
Oh, yeah.
Who's like insane.
Yeah.
And she was a Disney kid. She's in Disney her whole life. She was a star of a Disney show. And she seamlessly transitioned. And I'm sure for her, she would be like, well, it wasn't seamless. But I'm like, it seemed seamless. Like, it was just a seamless transition. I feel like Miley Cyrus, I would not call that a seamless transition, but it was a transition that happened. She was able to get out of it. Like Demi Lovato, and once again, all those people had struggles through it. Sabrina Carpenter seems to be doing good. But it's like those people were all very talented people who, as an adult, were able to be like, I also have adult talents that are different from just being on a Disney Channel show.
Yeah.
And I am kind of like, you can be angry at the industry, but this is just an industry where it's like nothing is really promised to you. And that's the unfortunate thing about the industry. Like no matter, even if you are really talented, there's a world where you just like don't book anything after. And that's why it's unfortunate. Maybe your parents put you into this industry at 6 years old and you weren't able to get any other options of careers you could do, because at the end of the day, you could turn 18 and just have nothing, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. It's also interesting. Sabrina Carpenter has a huge like theater background. And that's what I think the people who go through theater at any point are set up for more success because you have a very realistic view of entertainment. Yes, people who go in movies and TV do as well. They have like long days, but like theater is so incredibly demanding. Yeah. Like in dance, singing, acting, that sort of thing. If you're a child and you've made it in theater, that is, to me, is a feat. If you're a child, you've made it in TV, not so much as impressive. Yeah. But it's different. So I think if you have any sort of theater, you're probably incredibly adaptable. I mean, you think about people who try to go from child to adult star. It's like trying to go from internet to real life, where like a lot of people had great success, but they can't transition. And because a lot of their skill sets really only worked behind a camera. Yeah. Right? Yeah. But it's like, you're not talented. It's just, this is not your arena.
Yeah, totally. How was your week?
How was my week? It was good. I talked about Naomi winning 2 free tattoos. What happened this week? God, what happened with you?
I've just been prepping for the show I just did. I'm trying to think anything interesting. Please hold.
I went on, I was on The Bald and the Beautiful with Katya because
fun.
They are also a Studio 71 podcast. And when we were recording a couple of weeks ago on Friday, you had just left and I had gone to go pee. And then I saw this familiar face in the hallway and I was like, oh, that's Katya. And so I Katya, hi. And then she was like, hey, do you want to come on the podcast? And so I was just on their podcast. It was really nice. I haven't seen her in forever.
That's so nice.
Yeah, it's always crazy when you see someone that you just haven't seen in forever, and you're like, dude, you're the same.
You're the same person.
But not like the same. Like, we've all gone through transformations, but like it's, I don't know. I just, since the ADHD, out of sight, out of mind. Yeah. And so like seeing someone again, I'm like, like it's the first time they're hitting my brain again. Yeah.
100%. Oh, I remember what I did this week.
What'd you do?
Besides my rehearsals, I did watch part 2 of Bridgerton.
How'd it go?
It was great. It was good.
Was it gay?
It was, actually, a little bit. Oh. There was like an introduction to kind of, there was also like a threesome which was fun.
Okay.
I don't know, with a guy, 2 guys and a girl. Yeah. So that was pretty cool. And then there was a kind of an introduction to a lesbian romance, but nothing. It was like the last 2 minutes of the show. They were like, and because they're all books, so we like know. So there's a character in the books. I haven't read this book, but there's a character I'm pretty sure named Michael Sterling, who marries one of the girls. And in this show, a girl came up and she was like, "I'm Michaela Sterling," and everyone was like, "Ah!" Yeah. So that was fun. I really liked this season. Yeah. I didn't love it as much as last season. It felt very different to me. And then I looked up, there was like a new showrunner this season. Okay. Different from the first 2 seasons. but I still liked it. Sometimes I'm like, there's gotta be more drama.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I think something that's so fun about like, and I hate to compare because Shonda Rhimes, like Shonda Land obviously does Bridgerton, which also does Grey's Anatomy. And I'm not trying to like everything they do should be the same, but I do feel like there's kind of a Shonda Land touch, obviously, of like the drama.
Yeah.
And I think I was just wanting a little more drama this time, especially because the books already exist, so you know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I also think in a romance there needs to be, I think when you're writing a romance, there needs to be a lot of creativity in the way that you make your audience be like, what's gonna happen?
Yeah.
Because the characters do end up together, and that's like, I'm pretty sure it's like not even considered a romance novel if the couple doesn't end up together. Like, that's not allowed to be a romance.
Oh, interesting.
It's like put in a different genre. Even if like the whole book is romantic and then one of them dies at the end, it's like not a romance novel.
Yeah.
And so I think it's like you already know they're going to end up together, so you need to have more that's going to make me be like, what are they going to do? And I didn't feel like that this season. But I love Nicola Coughlan. Mm-hmm. I thought she was great. I'm obsessed with the girl who plays Eloise on the show.
Oh, yeah.
Have you watched?
No, but I know who plays Eloise.
Claudia Jessie.
Yeah.
Very cool. Doesn't have an Instagram, of course. Anytime I swear, anytime I'm like, oh, that celebrity seems really cool. I look them up. They don't have a social media. Every time. I've never been like obsessed with a person who like has a social media also. I'm like incredibly sad for me.
Or the opposite thing happens where you're obsessed with them, you go to their social media and it ruins them.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, you're doing, oh my God.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know what I look forward to with weekly meal planning? To just look forward to eating. You know, I'm not a good cook. We all could have guessed that. I can't combine spices. I don't know what to buy. Do I thaw this? My potato has a rind. I'm nearly 30. I have no excuse. But there's a lot to consider when meal planning. But now your plan can include restaurant quality meals from award-winning chefs every week. If you haven't checked out Cook Unity already, dude, they're the most convenient way to get a wide variety of affordable restaurant quality food from award-winning chefs delivered to your door. Go to cookunity.com/BCC or enter code BCC before checkout for 50% off your first week. I love Cook Unity. I recently got their Korean flank steak, rice bowl, and asparagus, and it's incredible. Melts in my mouth. Also, I love asparagus. It's just so good. But Cook Unity, it's easy and effortless. There's no cleanup or meal planning. Meals are delivered fully cooked. You know, you just heat in as little as 5 minutes. So make the best meal plan ever with the convenience, chef-level quality, and endless variety of Cook Unity. Go to cookunity.com/BCC or enter code BCC before checkout for 50% off your first week. That's 50% off your first week by using code BCC or going to cookunity.com/BCC.
Also, I did feel it was weird. Like the press tour, they were very much like, this season is going to be like really sexy. Like, really, like, don't watch it with your parents. Like, not a single episode, like, could you watch with your parents? It's like really, really horny. And not that I care. I'm not like, that's not why I was watching it. But I was like, out of the 3 seasons, like, this one was not the horniest.
Yeah.
But they kind of made it seem like it was going to be. So I was like, don't lie to me. Don't lie to my face.
Interesting.
I didn't watch this with my mom because you told me that.
Yeah.
And now I feel like I could have watched it with my mom.
Now we missed out on some quality time here. Yeah. You told me not to.
Although a lot of people hate on Bridgerton this season because they think that the new showrunner, I don't know who was in charge of this, but they're saying that the it's not accurate to the times. And I think that's like so annoying that people say that, because to me, I'm like, have a little fun. Sometimes I'm just like, people can't have fun anymore.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's fine. Like the queen has this hair that is like insane. Like every time she comes in to a ball, there's one time she has hair that goes like out into a huge circle, and then in the middle there's like a bird's nest with like hanging jewels from it. Like it's wild.
Yeah.
And it's like, obviously that's not accurate to the times or any time, but it's so fun.
Yeah, if you're gonna critique like the accuracy, critique how they talk, because I guarantee you, like, Bridgerton is based in what year?
1800s. It's 1824.
Even if they have a British accent, that's not how they talked in the 1800s. So you shut the hell up.
Well, yeah, it's also like they're gonna have to start slowly. If you want there to be queer characters, like it's not gonna. But that's not why you watch Bridgerton. You're not watching it to be like, oh, I'm learning. Like it's silly and it's fun.
Yeah.
And like people were so hard on them for this scene where Nicola Coughlan goes to cry and she has gel X nails on basically. But I'm like. That just really took me out of it. I'm like, I wasn't even that. It's one of those shows that's just so fun that you're not like, I'm not sitting there sobbing like, she's never going to get married. It's like, I'm not doing that. So why? It doesn't take me out of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, I mean, are you watching Bridgerton like right as your Vyvanse kicks in? You know, face like, oh God, there's nails. I mean, the thing is like, crap. What was the thing that I was going to say? You know what? I forgot. It was about like something not being accurate.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of stuff, but that's like fun sometimes. I just read a book this week that was, because I'd already read the Bridgerton the Bridgerton books for this season, but I wanted to read something that was like still kind of in the Bridgerton times, but was also kind of gay. And there's this book called, I can't even say the name, it's so embarrassing. It's called Don't Want You Like a Best Friend. Very cringy. But it's about these two girls who like are in the Bridgerton times. It's like the same plot as Bridgerton. They're like both trying to get married off at these like events during the courting season. And they like fall in love. And it was so unrealistic, but in a way that I liked, where it was just like, this is the 1800s. She's like, oh, I think I might be gay. I think I might be in love with my friend. She goes into the kitchen after this realization. Her housemaid and like handmaiden, I don't know what they call them, but like her assistants of the house.
Yeah.
They're having sex on the kitchen counter.
Hell yeah. And
she turns and they're like, oh, sorry. And then they're like, the dad starts to like get the vibe that his daughter's gay. And he's like, well, I know you're not going to want to marry a man. So I will remarry and try to have an heir so that you can just live with your girlfriend in my house and you guys can be married secretly and it's fine. And I was like, this would never happen.
Yeah.
But also love it. Like I just love the ease. I love that we're just like, this is fun and I don't have to be like upset the whole book.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that sounds, I don't know how gay people operated back in the day. I just assume that they, I don't know.
I mean, I think there's truth to it. Like, I think obviously there were lesbians forever.
Yeah.
So, and I know there was this thing of like having a companion.
Oh, yeah.
Where it would be like two spinsters would kind of like move in together as friends and, you know, and then they would just live together forever, but then they wouldn't like be making out on the street or anything, but they would just like live together.
Yeah.
So I think that's always existed, but the family was, I think to me, it's like even the thought that you had the edge, like the knowledge of being like, oh, I'm gay.
Yeah.
Like when she like looked at her friend and was like, wait, am I gay? It's like, I don't think people in the 1800s were maybe thinking like that. Maybe I'm wrong, but I have no idea. Although what I will say, I was talking to someone about this last night. I was like, people are always like, lesbians are always like, stop making lesbian period pieces. Like we're over it. And I am not over it. I want more. I want constant lesbian period pieces. There's something about it that is just like so good, like so hot. And there's so much like their outfit, like them having to like take corsets off each other. And then it's like how they're so emotional. Yeah. And they've like never felt this feeling before. And they don't even know what this feeling is. And they're like running around the beaches and being like, what do we do with all these emotions? I love it. I'm obsessed.
I was actually going to say like the opposite. I do like a period piece, but when I insert myself into like any sort of lesbian media, I can't do it with period pieces because of the outfits. I'm so autistic. I know that I would be overstimulated in any sort of bodice and layering, and the idea of like, I don't know, just my partner coming out to me and like trying to, we can't cuddle right now. Yeah. Look at us.
And it's hot. There's no central AC.
We're in 17 different layers of stuff.
And I will tell you, I was like really into the Bridgerton times, obviously, as everyone was watching Bridgerton.
Yeah.
The book I read, Don't Want You Like a Best Friend.
Yeah.
Also, I've said this before, but it is perverted. I was telling Jordan, I was like, I would have bought this for my 8-year-old nephew, being like, this is a kid's book about princesses. Yeah. It is not. It is not about, it wasn't that like weird. It wasn't like that sexual, but it was not for children. That's what I'll tell you. But that book made me be like, I could never live in this time. There's so much description of how the dresses feel. Yeah. And how uncomfortable she is. And there's one part where she's like sitting out at a picnic and she's so hot. And she talks about she's like dabbing her. So she can feel like sweat pooling underneath her.
Yeah.
And then she said that she could feel the feeling that she knows well that ants were crawling up her legs, but she can't do anything about it because it's just kind of like whatever is underneath your dress you can't deal with because it would be unladylike. So she's just having ants like crawl up her legs.
I can't. You know what my fantasy is for like a movie or like that's like around lesbians?
What?
Okay, so you know, but I'm a cheerleader.
Yeah.
Okay, so I love the idea of like, not like conversion therapy, like a house out in the middle of like nowhere. And usually I don't like this idea, but it's like one like super femme lesbian, one super masc lesbian in almost like a caricature way.
Yeah.
Where like how they wore like pink and blue, like, but not to denote gender, but it's kind of just like camp. And so like both of them madly in love with each other. The femme is unapologetically femme. The masc is unapologetically masc. However, like the femme does like to, you know, not hunt, but like, you know, work on cars. And then the masc is very like into their self-care, like the most intricate, you know, sort of thing. And just like kind of messing with, you know, people. I mean, it's not, yeah. And so they always are like feral for each other. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Where like they lock eyes for like a little bit too long and then they run across the house to make out.
Yeah.
But then they both have like their separate interests and like people will like drive by. And they just, when they like both come out of the house together, like, you know, almost one completely nude and then the other, like, they're like in BDSM mess and then someone like broke down and they're like trying to like help someone remove a tire while they're like, have like a butt plug that's like 3 feet long. But do you know what I mean? I think that like a caricature.
And the plot is just them. It's like slice of life. Like we're just watching them live.
Yeah. Like,
I love that.
Like they just, we just watch them be gay and they're like obsessed with each other like a disgusting amount.
Yeah.
And they both have their own cultivated aesthetics that's so far femme and masc, it's camp.
Yeah, yeah.
And that every time people see them, they can't wrap their mind around what type of couple they're looking at, but they can do everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, okay, I'd watch it.
I love it.
Who'd you cast?
Oh God, you just...
You need one femme, one masc.
Okay.
But you can hair and makeup them any way you want, so it doesn't have to be a person who's already masked.
Wait, actually, this is like a Kate McKinnon for the femme lesbian.
Wow, okay.
So far femme, right? And then for the...
I was not expecting that.
Masc lesbians in Hollywood. See, this is actually a huge problem that I'm discussing right now.
We're uncovering right now is that where are the masked lesbians in Hollywood?
Where are the masked lesbians?
You get the pick from 4.
Yeah.
It'll be easy.
Oh, I do like Tig Notaro.
Okay.
But I don't think they could really lean into the campy. I think their tone is a little bit too monotone.
But remember, you can take a person who can lean into it and turn them into a masked lesbian. Or do you want someone who's already a masked lesbian?
I do like Jacqueline Tamboni.
Mm-hmm.
Very... Ooh!
Who is it?
From Orange is the New Black, Leah Delaria.
I was going to ask if it was from Orange is the New Black, but yes.
I am obsessed.
Yeah.
You have... And, she could do it.
Yeah.
Like, she could... is it she or they? Both... Like, so, could you imagine them as like a super femme, super masked couple? Like, but they are obsessed with each other. Oh, I'm obsessed. Okay, yeah, let's get back into the episode.
A beautiful idea. Okay, let's make it happen.
Okay, so what are we? Oh, this is what we're talking about. What are Rewatch Podcasts?
Rewatch Podcasts. Okay, does anyone watch? Comment down below if you watch one of these.
Yeah.
I am fascinated by them. What are they? They are a podcast hosted by former cast members of a popular television show that is no longer running, where they discuss the show and rewatch scenes and episodes. Many celebrities' rewatch podcasts are sizable hits and draw regular listeners. For shows and actors who may otherwise fade into obscurity, the podcasts are a chance to re-enter the zeitgeist.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I thought there was just a bug on me, but it's not. In 2016, the release of The West Wing Weekly, a podcast featuring actor Joshua Malina, who played Will Bailey in The West Wing, first helped put the category on people's radars. Oh, cool. Mm-hmm. Why are they so popular amongst TV stars? For actors, these podcasts provide an opportunity to catch up with their former co-stars. Cast members from New Girl launched a Rewatch podcast in November 2021. The podcast is hosted by Zooey Deschanel. I did not know this. And Hannah Simone, and Lamorne Morris, who I have a problem with because he is the spokesperson for my bank.
Oh.
He did a commercial for them, and I'm sure he didn't mean any harm by it, but they're not a good bank. That's what I'll say. Mm-hmm. And yes, I will never do a brand deal with them. They have not asked. Why are they also... Oh, sorry. Hannah Simone told NBC News about her decision to do the podcast. She said, it made so much sense to come back together and revisit the show with our fans. This podcast is just an opportunity for us to all hang out again and tell stories.
Yeah.
But I also... To me, there's a difference because I'm like, well, Zooey Deschanel, I would not consider a comedian. But when you have people where it's like, well, they were comedians doing like The Office, or there are certain cast members of New Girl that I'd be like, yeah, I'm sure they're very funny or whatever, versus like child stars who are now just like normal adults that go to like luxury gyms and don't like, do you know what I mean? I'm like, I don't really need to hear what you guys went through. Also, there's such a difference between so many pilots come out every year and only a couple of them ever become like what New Girl was, what The Office was, whatever. So I think there is something interesting about like, oh, how did that feel to like be on one of those shows that really like did it?
Yeah.
Versus like a Disney or Nickelodeon show, it's like, well, those are just kind of decided. Like obviously some of them do better than others, but for the most part, it's like they will for sure have a couple seasons. The ratings will be good because they just will be on in people's houses. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I am... Oh, crap. Oh my God. Okay, this is just kind of a separate thing. So New Girl and the show Friends are not the same thing.
No.
But I guarantee you, when someone was proposing the show New Girls, they could have said like cited as a Friends vibe, but no one says New Girls. Oh, you mean like Friends? Whenever you pitch a lesbian TV show,
They always say the L word.
the L word. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's a great jumping off point. But even like, can't we just have multiple TV shows where there's a whole lot of lesbians without it being like the L word?
And I will once again use this opportunity to pitch me on the cast of Glee Cute.
Yeah, and I just have a lot of ideas. Oh my God, I outlined when I was in the sketch writing class, I outlined this entire lesbian series based around a home renovator in Charleston, South Carolina. And there were different lesbian couples that she hired as like the designer, the social media manager for her company, like the actual like carpenters and stuff like that. And they're all like paired. And I literally did a full casting. And when I was posting about it on my Instagram story, people were losing their minds. And that's when I had like a really stacked cast. And here's another thing I want to pitch for a series. Okay, so like American Horror Story, or not American Horror Story, but like these Black Mirror, how it's like, you can watch one episode, you don't have to watch the previous episode.
Yeah.
Why not that type of series with lesbian couples? Different types of lesbian couples experiencing different things.
Yeah.
And so you do like a speed run.
Yeah.
Because the thing is I'm going to be honest here. There's not enough lesbian sex scenes in movies or TV shows. And I understand that there's not enough lesbians in general. But do you know how hard it is to find a really good lesbian sex scene? Naomi and I, we were watching this movie and we were going to do what they were, but it was so brief.
What movie?
Kept having to rewatch it. It's a Dutch movie. But the Dutch, by the way, make incredible lesbian films. And the great part is that you don't have to really pay attention because they're speaking Dutch. And so you can kind of just watch what they're doing. Yeah. But the thing is, it was so frustrating to have to keep rewinding, you know? So that's also a note for like Netflix and different TV things. Make it so you can rewatch the same scene over and over again. That's also something I'm trying to pitch to Spotify, right? There's a part of a song that you just want to listen to. Why can't you just make a little, really, okay. But like, so like a Black Mirror, but not sad, speed run through various types of lesbian couples and make sure at least a handful of them do it. Because I am running out of material here.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I fully agree. Why are they so, Sarah, tell me why they're so popular among audiences.
Okay, so they tap into the nostalgia of fans and serve as a way for them to form parasocial connections with actors, not authors. I mean, it depends, but like, here's the thing. Okay, so indulging in nostalgia is great in moderation, but anything in excess, again, can be bad. So like, a lot of people on the far right have actually way too much indulged in nostalgia because they say things used to be better, right?
Yeah.
The things used to be better and not refusing to latch from that it can actually become problematic.
Yeah.
But you can enjoy, like, you know, going to Disney because it's like your childhood and that's a great thing. However, if you almost want to freeze or go back in time and you stick, like you're there too long, that will start to affect how you perceive other things and how you perceive change. But okay. So many of these podcasts are set up in the manner that means it feels like it's your friends that you're rewatching the show with, and as a result, the connection that the listeners feel with these actors, their characters, the show's universe is made exponentially stronger, wrote Alice Strang, an editor for the behavioral analysis firm Canvas 8. Will Pearson, chief operating officer of iHeartRadio, said, while true crime remains a popular category in podcasting, one of the things that we started seeing from listeners across the board was this desire to find comfort, escapism, and a reason to smile whenever possible. Yeah, escapism. It's an intimate kind of space, listening into a conversation between two hosts. Hey, guys. There is no better form than a podcast when you think about getting old stars together and all the bells and whistles are stripped away. He continued, it's not about every proper detail. It's a little more about what's going on behind the scenes, what these actors were thinking and how they interacted with each other in the scene. Those are the kinds of things that people get really excited about. So it's not even with things that people get excited about is like analyzing the episode. It's more like, were you guys fighting when you filmed this scene?
Yeah.
No, we were fucking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is so on the Ned's Declassified, have you seen these clips?
Yes.
They like always are like, they like, I guess, dated when they were on the set, and now on the podcast they're kind of like, should we fuck?
Yeah.
And like, I watched a thing where they like went to, it wasn't the cut, but it was similarly filmed, where it's like, I don't know if it was the cut or not, but it's where they're like sitting across from each other at a table doing like Q&As, like dares with each other.
Yeah. And
one of them was like, call your mom and tell her that you're dating each other. And they did that. And it was like, kiss each other. And they like kissed. It was like really weird.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is this? So there's all of that. But I also think nostalgia, for me, it's like when I first see one of those podcasts released, I have a moment of like, oh, but it's like, is that going to carry people for multiple seasons? You know what I mean? Like the intro, but maybe it will. I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess Christy Carlson Romano and Annalise Vanderpool's podcast isn't a rewatch podcast then, right?
Is it just them shit talking?
I think it might just be them shit talking.
Well, that's like,
because they weren't on a show together.
Yeah, I mean, shit talking is fun. Yeah.
I'm always like, they're like, why are we not being cast? And then every episode they're like, I'm spilling the tea on everything that happened in my last job and why I was fired. And I'm like, this might be why you're not working.
Yeah, that is such an interesting thing from people who are like supposed to be established. Like whenever I see an influencer up and coming and their entire shtick is shit talking, I'm like, you're about to hit a ceiling so hard. Because the thing is you may not view influencers as real people, but you are about to enter this career and no one is going to want to collab with you, or the people that will are not people that will be loyal. You know what I mean? So if you to be a shit talker professionally, you have to be 100% certain you never want to work with that person.
Yeah.
Pearson remembers being in multiple conversations about potential rewatch podcasts when the COVID-19 pandemic hit. It was one of the co-stars of Fake Doctors, Real Friends, a Scrubs rewatch podcast, who suggested they kick this genre into high gear. It was Zach Braff that pointed it out, Pearson told IndieWire. He was saying, people are stuck at home, people are miserable, people need something to latch on to think about happier times to laugh at. And he was absolutely right. Susan McKay Callis, a communications professor at... She said the rise of celebrity rewatch podcast genre wasn't surprising. These fictional characters we grew up with are almost like our friends coming into the living room through our laptop, through our phones, and we feel like we know them as people. But here's the thing. Some of these rewatch podcasts have actually kind of ruined the shows for me.
Yeah.
I mean, this is not a rewatch podcast, and this should have come out. But like the Nickelodeon documentary.
Yeah.
That did ruin a lot of the shows, rightfully so. And so, like, sometimes when I hear the attitudes and, like, the resentment coming out of a lot of rewatch podcasts, or, like, how they're not clinging to the past. I know a lot of reminiscing is very, like, valid and fun. But, like, it's kind of ruining it for me.
Yeah. Totally, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like I don't know. I've never been a person who, like, fangirls that much. So I've never like, I guess it probably is just that I work in this industry where it's like, I'm not like, the thought of hearing two people who start in a show together talk to each other makes me like, oh my God, like that's so fun. Like I just don't really care because I'm just like, okay. But I guess for someone, I think it could be interesting for some people to like, who just have no connection to the industry to be like, oh, that's what happens on set.
Yeah.
But for me, it's like, I don't think I'd be able to watch that back. Even just like knowing that the two of them were like hooking up makes me feel like weird. Not because that was wrong of them. Yeah. But it's like, I'm an adult. To be clear, I wasn't really rewatching Ned's Declassified before this. Yeah. Wasn't like a show I would go back and be like, oh, I got to see that. But it's like, I would feel weird now watching them do like a romance on screen, being like they were fucking each other off screen at 15 years old or whatever. Yeah. It just makes me feel weird. It's like too much information.
It is.
Or like, I think it's like Annalise Vanderpool, sorry if I'm saying her name wrong. I think I'm saying it right. Yeah. But hates like her and Raven have such beef. Yeah. And like she got fired from Raven's home or whatever it is. Like that makes it kind of like less fun to watch because in the show it's like, oh my God, they're such good friends.
Yeah.
Which for some things, like I know Fred and Ethel, right, on I Love Lucy didn't get along.
Oh, I didn't. I've never watched.
Yeah, they were like a married couple on the show, and I'm pretty sure they were like mortal enemies. Like they just hated each other so much. Yeah. Kind of makes it funnier. Like it is kind of funny to think about. But I think when it becomes like petty drama and like drama about the industry and drama about like fighting, it's just like not as fun to, it kind of ruins it.
Yeah. And also a lot of characters are like on TV shows are incredibly interesting for a reason. They've been written that way. And a lot of people in real life are not. And so I don't know how to say this without insulting. Sometimes the character is a better, more interesting person than you are. And okay, this is an issue that a lot of people in the fan fiction community run into, right? Like they'll see a male celebrity and they'll come up with this, like who he is. He loves women. He's like, he reads and he donates and he loves dogs. And then you see an interview of him and he's like, yeah, my bitch ex-girlfriend. And the illusion is shattered. The same thing happens with a lot of these rewatch podcasts. It's like the fucking on set and associating it with such a beloved childhood TV show, you shattered it, you know? Yeah. And I know that that's reality, but like when you are discussing nostalgia that involves children, you have to be careful because the disconnect can become incredibly apparent. Yeah. And you will lose the audience for why they came in the first place.
Yeah. So Jodie Sweetin and Andrea Barber, who played Kimmy Gibbler, and then Jodie Sweetin played Stephanie Tanner. They do a podcast called How Rude, Tanneritos. And that is a rewatch podcast about Full House. Uh-huh. There's another Full House rewatch podcast with Dave Coulier, I don't know.
Dave Coulier.
Plays Joey Gladstone. Called The Full House Rewind. Even More Stevens is a podcast about Even Stevens, hosted by Christy Carlson Romano, Nick Spano, and Stephen Anthony Lawrence. Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide, Ned's Declassified Podcast Survival Guide is what it's called, with Lindsay Shaw, Devin Werkheiser, and then Daniel Curtis Lee, who played Cookie, which will never not make me laugh. And then Wizards of Waverly Pod is hosted by Jennifer Stone and David DeLuise. And then Rewives is the Real Housewives with Bethany Frankel.
Can I add a note, though? Okay, Bethany Frankel having a rewatch podcast for a reality TV show. This is where I'm like, this is different because this is her. And the
I'm like, that's just actual tea because the stuff going on behind the scenes, I'm like,
yeah, you're saying the stuff that they cut out because it was too explicit. I want to hear the rest of the fight.
100%.
Yeah.
There's also the Glee rewatch podcast, and that's what you really missed, with Kevin McHale and Jenna Ushkowitz, which I have not listened to that one, but all I gotta say is there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes of Glee that I would like to know.
Oh, yeah.
That could have been a reality show in itself. There is one about Smallville called Talkville with Tom Welling and Michael Rosenbaum. There's a New Girl one called Welcome to Our Show. Wow, really didn't try on that name.
No.
Zooey Deschanel, Hannah Simone, and Lamorne Morris. There's a Gossip Girl one. There's a One Tree Hill one. There's The OC, The Sopranos, Scrubs, The Office, which is Office Ladies with Jenna Fisher and Angela Kinsey. There's a Boy Meets World one with Danielle Fishel, Will Friedle, and Ryder Strong, who I think they were annoyed when what's-his-name didn't want to do the pod, the guy who played the main character on that show, because he's now in politics. I don't know. There's a Parks and Recreation one. I did not know this. Called Parks and Recollection, which formerly had Rob Lowe, who I'm obsessed with, and Alan Yang, and currently is Jim O'Hare, Greg Levine.
Yeah.
There's a Beverly Hills one, Laguna Beach, Friday Night Lights, another Friday Night Lights one, and a Gilmore Girls one called I'm All In with Scott Peterson.
That, I feel like, that's a lot. And the fact that there's 2 podcasts relating to the same topic.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I would, if anyone is a fan of 2 podcasts that relate to the same show, let us know the contrasting viewpoints or how differently they are, if they are different at all.
Yeah, because how did they decide who's going to be on each one?
Yeah,
is it like the clicks of the cast?
Yeah, and is it like a call and response sort of thing where like if someone misspeaks on Friday Night Lights, the next podcast is like, actually that didn't happen.
Yeah.
That like dueling podcast.
I would like that. I would listen to that.
Actually, yeah. If your podcast was just the entire premise was that you had a dueling podcast where it was like debate, where you set up a point and then the next week is a counterpoint from a different podcast.
Oh, that's fun.
Ping pong. Has anyone ever done that?
Well, I guess it would be hard because you wouldn't really get to go back and forth though.
Yeah, but I mean,
it would just be one ping pong. You would serve it and they'd send it back and then that would be the end of it, right?
I know, but you get a solid week to stew over what they said, and then you're like, okay, yeah, and then you see the next week. I mean, there's the 2 weeks. I mean, so it's like maybe one podcast released on Monday, and then on Friday, and then Monday, and then Friday.
Yeah.
So like they are each one time a week, but it's like you're given time to rebuttal and research, and then it's just a never-ending topic.
Pretty cool.
Has that concept ever been fulfilled, guys? Let us know in the comments below.
There's also...
Wait, that's just the news.
There we go.
That's just the news. Sorry.
There's also... It said a note from our researcher. I selected a couple of the podcasts from above and gave more info on the hosts and their role in the show and their recent acting career. Oh, got it. I see. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go down a little bit to one that I know.
I can't think about Zach Braff ever since he dated Florence Pugh.
Oh my God, yeah.
That should have never happened. I'm sorry, Florence. I respect your decisions, but also I'm your mom, and that shouldn't have happened.
Sorry, I'm trying to find. Okay, well, let's talk about the Wizards of Waverly Pod one. Mm-hmm. Jennifer Stone, who played the best friend.
Yeah.
She played Harper, who is the best friend with Alex Russo. And since the show ended, she starred in the following films: Nothing Left to Fear in 2013 and The In-Between 2021.
She also became a nurse, so that's why. She's like a full-blown nurse. But the thing is, okay, I think we all can agree here that Harper and Alex Russo were both gay. Harper was definitely bi, and Alex was definitely a lesbian.
Yes.
And they should have, at one point, kissed, like, at least once.
But do you know the theories that are almost confirmed?
What?
Because did you watch Wizards of Waverly Place?
Yes, I did.
Haley Kiyoko comes on the show.
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah.
And Haley Kiyoko is fully... I was talking about this the other day. I don't say the word Roman Empire often.
Uh-huh.
Because I know I'm Gen Z, but I try to be cool.
Okay.
This is my Roman Empire.
Yeah.
And I only pick one. The fact that Haley Kiyoko was just simply gay, only on Disney. She came on her debut, Wizards of Waverly Place, having the most insane haircut that's like fully like a pixie cut, but then is like spiked up. She's wearing like Doc Martens.
Yeah.
And her and Alex are flirting. Like they're just flirting. Like that's all it is. Like it is written like flirting. She then is on Lemonade Mouth where she plays literally Janice Ian, basically.
Yeah.
In Lemonade Mouth. But apparently... And I hesitate to be like, I'm sure of this, but I really remember that they were saying it was basically confirmed that they were kind of wanting it to be like Haley Kiyoko and Alex have a thing. Like that's going to be like a lesbian thing we do on Disney. And then obviously that didn't happen. I have a hard time believing it because I'm like, that would have been insane. Like that would have been so... Ahead of its time is even an understatement. It's like they were not having main characters on Disney shows being lesbians. That is crazy.
Yeah.
But... supposedly that was what she was kind of there to do. But so they just had this really flirtatious energy, and she was clearly a lesbian, but they just didn't really talk about it.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was interesting.
Also, I need to revise my statement. I was just thinking about this. Harper was the lesbian.
And you think Alex was bi?
Oh,
Alex really liked her little werewolf boyfriend.
Yeah. And Harper, God, I've never seen myself more in someone. You know?
Yeah.
That full-blown leaning into your aesthetic, that's so queer.
Yeah.
She's a lesbian.
She also spent so much time with their family that I'm like, what was going on with your family?
Yeah. Okay, so it's hosted by Jennifer Stone and David Deleuze.
Yes, who plays the
Jerry Russo. Oh, the other dad.
Which was a fun pairing. I did think was fun. Mm-hmm. And I haven't seen this. This came out a while ago. This show. So, but I remember there was kind of an energy on it of like, those were the good times, which I think is a bummer. But I am like, to me, it is interesting in this industry that is so hard. Also, almost all of these are hosted by white people.
Yeah.
In this industry, to be so angry that you haven't booked much since when you booked a hit TV show that you were on for 4 years. Mm-hmm. It's like, yeah, you can be obviously rant to your partner and your friend. Yeah. But it's like to start a podcast being like, I've been wronged, when like so many people are struggling with employment. Yeah. And it's like you got cast on a TV show that was a hit for so long. And an actor is like one of the jobs that it's just like, yeah, you don't get anything for sure. Like, yeah, it is not an ethical industry. And it also is not like a thing you can do XYZ and get XYZ. And most people like will never get cast in a commercial who try their whole life. Mm-hmm. So I do think it's this weird energy of like two people who had a very successful acting career, in my opinion, yeah, being like so mad that they didn't get like more, you know, which feels weird.
I totally understand if, again, like I said, like if it's a one-off sort of thing or you got blacklisted or something like that, you felt wronged.
Yeah, yeah.
And you've made like a series with other actors who feel that way. But this kind of reminds me of like Vine was iconic. And if I had an entire podcast dedicated to like Vines and where are they now Viners, like it's fun if I did a one-off sort of thing. Yeah. But at a certain point, you'd be like, what are we not letting go here? You know?
Yeah.
But I do also, what I do like about this pairing of the Wizards of Waverly pod specifically is that it's a much older man with a much younger.
I like that. I think that could be really interesting. And maybe they do this. I haven't listened to this podcast, so I mean, they might be just killing it. I have no idea. But I think it could, because the perspective of a person who's like a teenage girl during that time versus a man who's like a full-grown man, would be so different and interesting to talk about their perspectives.
Yeah, and like the thing is when there's two high contrasting hosts, they both have to attempt to bridge a gap of understanding. Yeah. When it's people all of the same age, like reminiscing in the past, I imagine it's like listening to a group of people who went to high school together and they all have inside jokes. Yeah. And you're like, yeah. Oh, you guys did have sex? That's great. But like the thing is if there's an older man, he's like, well, I perceived it as, you know, and then because he also probably has different issues at the time than a child. Yeah. And so I'm like, they're trying to meet each other. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you mean? Sorry.
Yeah.
I do. I loved. Okay, I'm trying to go through the series that I did love. I loved Parks and Rec, but I wouldn't watch a recap. I did like Scrubs. I would not watch a recap. Would you watch a recap of any of these shows?
I would. I mean, I don't listen to podcasts. I would watch a Glee recap.
I listen to podcasts when I'm cleaning. But that's because like I don't really have to drive a lot of places since I work from home.
Oh, really? Oh, well, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, if I do drive, it's like not an hour's worth of driving.
Right. Yeah, I would watch a Glee one. But like a one-off episode. I would watch clips from. That's more my vibe. Glee. I would maybe watch a New Girl clip. I would watch. Yeah, that's probably it. I mean, I love a lot of these shows, but I'm like, I don't really care what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, and I think the issue with so something I do like about some of these, specifically the Parks and Recreation one, is that it's a conversation between an actor and a writer, right? Like there's, that's great because the writer, wrote the show, the person
Yeah.
acted in it. When it's also what I think people need to take into consideration, and this is not a dig at actors, sometimes they're not fun to listen to.
Yeah. Well, it's very self-absorbed sometimes. I mean, even with the Ned's Declassified one, it's kind of like they dated on screen. So when I was 8, I was like, oh my God, I want them to get together. And then they're now like full adults and they're like, we had sex. And you're kind of like, yeah, I'm an adult. I don't care. Like, I've also had sex. Like, it's not really that insane.
Yeah.
And it is this really like, but I think child actors, like growing up as a child actor, is such a bizarre thing where your life is just you and your parents have dedicated their life to you being famous. A thing that like doesn't really matter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think it is just a weird way to do it. If you could pick one show on earth that would have a rewatch podcast, what would it be?
Game of Thrones.
Oh, okay. Who would be the hosts?
It had to be a writer who's ready to end his career. You know what I mean? Because there's so many cast members, so many moving parts, so many locations, and the way that it ended was horrendous.
Yeah.
Like, and I think this person, like someone who's ready to burn all bridges.
Yeah.
And tell you about what the writer's room was like.
Yeah.
And you go episode by episode. Because, I mean, Game of Thrones is already so gritty that you're not really ruining a perception of something.
Right.
That's what I would probably say.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
What about you?
I don't know. What would I do? I would do a rewatch podcast of the show on CW, Dynasty, that ran for 3 seasons. Mm-hmm. And Liz Gillies would host it, and a PA would host it with her.
Oh, I have another one.
Go ahead.
America's Next Top Model.
Oh, that's a good one.
But a nutritionist is doing the rewatching.
Ooh, fun.
Yeah, or anyone who's had any sort of body positivity discussion, because that shit was wild.
That was wild. Also, I would do Santa Clarita Diet. These are way too recent to be, but I would do Santa Clarita Diet, and I'd want one of the stars of the show to do it, maybe Timothy Oliphant, and then a person who was on the, like, FX team. Is that what it's called? FX makeup? Yeah, FX team. Because that FX makeup is insane. And it's incredible.
Ooh, something else. There's this series on YouTube that I really like where like linguists or like speech pathologists will, I don't even think, or so someone like dialect coaches will like watch a movie and like be like, this is not an English accent.
Yeah.
And you can like, they'll explain like diphthongs and stuff like that. I know, funny word. But like, yeah, they're like, so he is Scottish throughout the entire movie except this one part.
Yeah.
And I like that because like I would have never, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And also I feel like that's such a great podcast concept because it's all audible.
Yeah. That's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for watching, everyone. Thumbs up.
I'm doing the millennial heart.
Why? What's Gen Z heart? Is this the Gen Z heart?
Yeah, or something like I can't.
Yeah,
do
this one I don't think is anyone.
I can't do the Gen Z heart because it hurts my carpal tunnel hands.
Wow. I think I like this one better.
Yeah.
The millennial heart.
The millennial heart is accessible. Sue me.
It's accessible and it's also very like it's very it feels round and loving, whereas I think the Gen Z heart feels a little like rigid.
Yeah.
And intense. Thank you so much for being here. Comment down below what show you would want a rewatch podcast about, and we will change this podcast to be that.
We will turn this ship around.
Thank you so much for being here. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or anywhere you get your podcast, really, make sure to rate and review. And if you're on YouTube, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And thank you so much for being here. And we hope you have the best Wednesday of your life.
Seriously, the best Wednesday ever. Thank you guys.
Bye.
Bye.